2014 will go down as the warmest year around the globe in recorded history.
2015 was the hottest year since climate records began.
Your show this July was the single hottest month in recorded history.
Australia sweltered through its hottest spring on record.
Climate change is now affecting every country on every continent.
The rate that's of great concern.
And what do you put that rate down to?
Oh, it's human activity.
We have everything we need. Some still doubt that we have the will to act, but I say the will to act is itself a renewable resource.
On February 25th, the Transitions Film Festival came south to the Grand Astor Theatre in St. Kilda. Transitions has become a fixture in the Melbourne community as a festival for forward-looking films that engage with the climate crisis, but that also help us imagine a better future. The film that was shown that night, Anote's Ark, grapples with the stark reality of life in the Pacific nation of Kiribati, the existential threat these islands face, and the horrifying truth that it's only a matter of when, not if, rising seas make life impossible on these islands, before they are swallowed completely.
Kiribati is in the center of the world. It's right there, bang in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So far away, so isolated. We thought we would be immune from the tribulations of this world.
Rising sea levels have already taken a village on one of your islands. Do you see the possibility of all the people from Kiribati one day having to leave?
For those of us on the front line, it really does not matter what is agreed to in Paris, because we will continue to go underwater.
If it is a foregone conclusion no matter what happens, what's the point of a deal now?
Well, what's the point? Well, we need to survive. What is going to happen to us is going to be the fate of the rest who will follow.
Linked in the show notes is an episode of the Australia Institute's podcast that they kindly allowed us to share, featuring a conversation with former president of Kiribati, Anote Tong, on Australia's failures to engage as a good member of the Pacific community. While in the Melbourne suburb of Port Phillip, we can feel far from the threat of imminent loss, from flooding tides and hurricane winds. The post-screening panel gave me the opportunity to talk to 3 residents about how we feel that truth and what we do with that knowledge. I'll take you now to the event, with thanks to Daniel and the whole Transitions team, and the good folks from Sustainable Port Phillip who pulled together the event, and who were thanked by name at the end of the panel. Enjoy. What an amazing film. We've got a big job for us tonight to follow that. Luckily, we've got 2 proud sons and daughters of Port Phillip here tonight, and 2 older...
One interloper and 2 interlopers from up north, Orangery country.
There you go. Good. And what we're going to do is not really dive into the themes and topics of this film we just watched, because, well, that would be a whole night, I think, and there's a lot to chew on. But instead, because, this is the first time there's been a Transitions Film Festival event in Port Phillip, this far down south, amazing, we're going to talk a little bit about local issues and the local scene and the climate community down here. Just for my own interest, who here has been to a Transitions Film Festival event before? Anybody? Show hands. Okay, good. A third, maybe half? All right. Who here has heard of Climactic before? Anybody? Oh my! That's just for my own sake. That's cool. All right. That's a little podcast I started nearly 2 years ago now. I started it mainly here in Port Phillip, chatting to city councillors on Port Phillip Council, talking to people like FAM at the Port Phillip EcoCentre. I was basically just trying to get a handle on what the climate community here was, where I could fit in, really sort of what people were doing about this massive climate crisis we're facing, And it's been a source of inspiration and hope, and those two things mainly. Sometimes a huge dose of like, I'm not doing enough-ism, but you get that way in the climate community. You can always be doing more. But tonight, I think we're going to mainly be speaking about what people are doing about the climate crisis and how you all can be involved, but also how you can begin to know more about what's happening in your local community. So we can watch this film, we can be shocked and appalled and really empathetic to the people of Kiribati, and we can say, wouldn't it be great to have another 100,000 people in the city of Port Phillip? We're going to have that population growth anyway. Why not those people? They look amazing. But honestly, there's so much we can do within our communities now to get ready for the future that's going to be facing us as well, and that we need to be doing. So let's get into it here a little bit. And one of the major topics that I kind of was chewing on after that film was that feeling of feeling small in the face of such a massive issue of the climate crisis. Now, I'm kind of curious from my panel here, who I haven't even introduced. I'm a terrible host. I'm sorry. We have Charlie.
Hello.
And Charlie, so just talking about intersectionality quickly here, what did we see before the film, if anyone didn't catch you in your star turn up on stage, or also
So my film was the last of the 4 short films, which was 11 years, which was basically a visual interpretation of how young people image climate change and how their views are on it and everything, and how they see older generations and their attitudes and stuff. And
very good. And Julia, so what do you do when you're not here on film panels at the Astor Theatre?
I work as a youth worker for youth projects, and then also on the City of Port Phillip's Youth Advisory Council, so work a lot with Lisa and the City of Port Phillip team.
Fantastic.
Doing advocacy stuff with youth.
Very good. Julia, let's have you hold it up.
Sorry.
You got a nice big voice with this thing. That's good. And Fam, and what do you do when you're not here at the Astor?
So I work for the Port Phillip EcoCentre, where I'm the marine biologist, so I do lots of citizen science projects there. And the EcoCentre provides a base for City of Port Phillip people and people from all over the state, really, to come and nurture and hatch environmental solutions to, for example, the climate crisis that we're facing at the moment. And we tend to concentrate, on climate change, but also in particular Port Phillip Bay and the waterways and catchments in Melbourne that lead into Port Phillip Bay as well.
So we're all doing big things and important things, but just speaking kind of as people who've just watched this film, how does that sentiment of feeling small in the face of something like this, how does that kind of resonate with you? How do you respond to that? Because when I watch this, I'm just like, what is a small island nation of 100,000 people going to do against this, much less one person, me, sitting in the audience? It's a challenging film. How did you kind of feel while you were watching it, Charlie?
Well,
whoever's ready.
It's kind of funny because I haven't even heard of these islands before, which is crazy, and how these people are going through this crisis, and that it's interesting how it is talked about a lot, climate change, but it isn't talked about a lot about who is being affected by it. It's more about the planet's warming up, it's getting hotter, bad things are happening, but we're not really looking at how people's lives are actually affected directly from it. Yeah.
Really good point. How about you, Julia? How did this kind of sit with you? What were you kind of reacting to in the film?
Yeah, I think it's easy as young people and just people in the community as general to feel really overwhelmed by this issue just in general, and the climate anxiety that's associated with that. And I think that, as individuals, we can feel constantly like we're not doing enough. And then that juxtaposition of the anger that we feel towards these big companies that are actually doing quite a lot to contribute in terms of pollution. But I think just reminding ourselves that individually we are just one person, but I guess what I take away from that film is just that these amazing communities that can just work together and actually advocate for themselves, and just we're all going to be impacted by this issue. It's not no one's exempt from climate change. It's all
That's right. And And Fem, sort of with your scientific background and your position in the community as an educator, watching this film, was there anything that was maybe new to you, or that you're now going to incorporate into the message you share with the community?
Yeah, well, what I find really interesting is that we seem to use words like climate justice for communities that are not our own. We tend to say, oh, climate justice for, these island nations. And as we have seen with the recent bushfires, that started over Christmas, we are now also the affected people. So it is really rapidly coming home to us now that, climate change is not just out there affecting people out there, but it is now here in our daily lives, and it is affecting us just as hard. And I think in the light of recent events, people have really woken up to that. Hence, for example, the Climate Emergency Summit that was held last week.
Yeah, that's right. The opening shots of that film, the beautiful aerial photos, the look at the water kind of winding through the villages, and then when you see the storm damage and you kind of see that shot again, you realize the profound vulnerability. And now, after this summer, right, you go out in Australia's bush and you feel vulnerable, you feel exposed, you feel in danger. I'm sure working by the bay like you do and like we all live, we're exposed as well. So I guess that's one good thing to maybe take away from the film and keep with us in our day-to-day lives, is that we're in a rich country, we're in a developed country, but we're not in a safe country. We're not looking over at Kiribati like, oh, sucks for them, but we're fine, but we're not. I'm sure, as we all know, but it's a good thing to touch on and kind of take with us. On the flip side, we can feel vulnerable and small, but we're entering 2020 with some good signs behind us, maybe. I'm kind of curious if we feel like we've got some momentum going into 2020 because of the amazing year that 2019 was for youth activism especially. And so we're really lucky to have two young people on the panel with us, and two young at heart people, me and you, Fam.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate
you more than me, I think. How about that sense of youth empowerment? We were talking about it quickly before, so I don't want to steal any of your ideas, but how's the year looking ahead for you, Charlie?
Well, just from last year, and I got my initial passion from going to one of the first school strikes last year, and I went there thinking, oh, it's gonna be this cool event, but seeing thousands of kids just marching down in the streets of Melbourne just had this sense of empowerment, but also this responsibility for our generation to do better than the last, and making sure that our future families that can have just as bright as futures that we can, and everyone else has been able to. Yeah.
So you've got a sense of hope maybe going into 2020?
Yeah, definitely. Well, hope isn't lost, but it needs to be action now, I guess.
It's hope on a foundation of action and maybe positive signs we saw from last year.
The positive signs from last year definitely will translate through this year, I reckon.
Excellent. So, Julie, I'm kind of curious with your work as a youth worker, kind of what you think about your generation and your cohort. Have you seen kind of that passion that's lit up Charlie a bit here? Have you seen that in other people?
Yeah, and I think even just on the scale that grew as well, the first strike that I went to in 2018, I think there was 1,500 people, and then last year in Melbourne there was 150,000 just in Melbourne. So in 1 year that is completely exponential growth.
We can do it again. Just next time bring 100 of your mates, and we'll do it again.
But just seeing, I guess, the speed and velocity of this movement, but just because young people are at the centre of it, and it's this amazing driving force that's, I think the biggest, all the signs that you see at the climate strike are, if you don't act like adults, then we will. And I think that's the big takeaway of this whole movement, is that young people have been sitting around for decades waiting for our politicians and our leaders to act, and they haven't been. So it's up to young people that are committed to making sustainable change to advocate for it for themselves.
That's right. Fam, I'm curious, as a young at heart person, I'm sure, have the school strikes of 2019 been inspiring to you?
It has really touched me deeply. And I kind of feel like I should apologize to you guys because, you know, like I represent the cohort of adults here, and I think it is an absolute travesty that we have, as adults, have failed our children so deeply that they feel like they have to take the adult actions of going out on the street and doing all these actions, taking time out of the school, out of their education. When I was 13, all I wanted to do was ride ponies. You know, because I thought my parents and their generation and my grandparents, they got this. You know, when I grow up and I get to make the decisions, I'm going to, you know, live my life and the world is my oyster. And to now see that the generations before us, to which I count myself as well, have failed you guys so deeply that you feel that you need to be out on the street instead of riding ponies, that is a bloody tragedy, and I apologize for that. Really, that it has touched me deeply, all these people on the street.
And that's a really powerful sentiment, and it resonates a lot with me, and I know from talking to other people, and now mainly adults later in life, and that resonates a lot with them. But I can imagine as a young person, you're just like, okay, thank you for the apology. It doesn't mean anything to me, though. I'm kind of curious, Fem, has it fueled any tangible changes or inspired you to do anything else because of 2019? So it's been great it's happened, and it's been like this sort of lightning rod moment for youth, but what have we done as the adults to follow up that action? Is there anything you can think of?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what it's like in your circles, but I hang around with a lot of enviro hippies, right? So it has spurred so many conversations all over the place. You know, like conversations for climate, dinner parties where people are really getting together and opening the conversation, even with the people in their family that are not really responsive to these things. So people are way more awake and way more onto it now. And personally, well, I guess also I have the privilege of you know, being able to work for the EcoCentre. And today we actually had an all-staff and committee workshop day where we're really asking the questions, how can we support our young people as an environmental organization? Because Greta Thunberg is still traveling around the world, still saying to adults, you're still not listening. Mm-hmm. You're not listening. So I'm thinking maybe we should even change our education approach, you know, like, because education has always been like, okay, this is us the adults teaching you young children how to do things. I don't think that counts anymore in this context. We need to sit down and listen to what you guys, young people, have to say. And we, as the people who supposedly have, you know, the majority of the power to change things, need to give you the tools and the resources that you need to dream this new world into being. And that's what I've really changed my thinking of how I approach education and how I approach my role as an adult. And it has gone from teaching and educating to empowering and to giving you guys the tools and be more of a facilitator than anything else. Yeah.
Outstanding. And that's one interesting theory to change. There's a big conversation around that. I'd say education is something that always comes up as probably the most empowering and powerful thing we can do to start making systemic and long-term changes. I'm kind of interested if we should, like Montessori style, turn it over to the kids, or instead teach like there is a real crisis, and teach not like, okay, it's not business as usual, it's 10% better. No, teach like, this is how we mobilized in World War II, and this is how we're doing it from next week. This is how you plant a victory garden. This is how you'd never go to the supermarket again.
Yeah, what do you guys think? Like, what do you need as young people? What do you need from the adults in your life?
Well, I guess that's like the biggest question at the moment. But I guess it's hard to change minds of, you know, older generations because, you know, they've been brought up with these, you know, fixed opinions of, you know, the world's changing and everything. It's natural processes, but like, it's hard to, you know, put that actual stuff in mind that it's actually the result of them and their actions and the, you know, the way that, you know, big businesses go about it and everything. And like, and yeah, it's a difficult question, and I'm still trying to figure out how to change the minds. It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think encouraging just community awareness and just community education in general. So like not just like how to cope with climate change, but how to make sustainable like everyday changes in your life, and just general information about like how to recycle and where you can recycle, because a lot of people just don't actually know that information, and there isn't a really good, unless like City of Port Phillip has a great public resource, but not every council has that available. So I think just increasing the opportunities for that to happen, and also just giving young people a platform, because I think we're constantly silenced by like the media and politicians, and I think it's always made like it's a thing that we just couldn't possibly understand. It's always like, oh, it's too complex for you, or it's something that's out of your realm of, like you don't need to be concerned about this, and you don't need to bother, it doesn't need to bother you, but it does impact us, and we've actually read the science, so we are concerned.
It was a huge question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, sorry to spring that on you guys.
No, I thank you for it, and very well taken. But it is, of course, it's a multi-layered thing, and you have to kind of, to make any tangible progress, we have to really talk nuts and bolts of things and very tangible things. But it's really good sometimes just to throw out a big question and use your mind bike a little bit, see where you go. I'm curious. We've got call it 5 more minutes maybe. That was a quick half an hour. I'm curious among the attendees tonight and I should do this at the start of any talk I do or any opportunity like this. A bubble check. Did anyone bring anyone tonight who's not like, already a sustainability person, a green person, a climate change aware person? Did anyone like press gang a friend, like frog march them? Yes, excellent. I want to start doing this more because I think, yay, well done. Thank you for coming. Yes. I'm curious, question for the panel. That film, how impactful and powerful is that? Can you actually imagine anyone in your lives that if you made them sit and watch that, they wouldn't be affected by it? Because I'm imagining your short film, Charlie, the guy who sounded like me with my terrible, cursed accent, who could sit through that and think like, so what? Do you know anyone like that in your lives?
Definitely.
Yes. Actually, I know an almost entire country. I'm from the Netherlands. Half my country is already under sea level. And there seems to be an incredible trust in the technology that we're just going to build the dikes higher and then it's all going to be okay. And I don't think I buy that anymore. So, I don't know, maybe they should all see this film.
I asked for a person and you raised me a country. Well done. Oh my God. I can probably think of people in my life as well. So I'm kind of curious with maybe talking quickly about where our personal passions kind of intersect with climate change and what we want to do that has probably the most impact, or where we want to find our impact and find our space, and maybe where we found it within Port Phillip. So if other people are like, oh yeah, that's my thing too, that's my passion, that fills my cup, there is something in this area I can get involved in. Charlie, for you, acting, making short films, like what's your dream for this?
Well, my dream is like when I make films and everything is to, put out a message, and hopefully people will read that message, and in a way, because I don't like having this, this one message in my films. I like to have this, people can like sit there after and figure out, what they took from it and what they can like think about it and everything. And I just hope that people can, take a positive thing out of those things. So that's, what I'm looking for.
Causing thought, causing introspection.
Yeah.
Good. Very
exactly.
Good. Julia?
And I guess just encouraging young people to join like local council groups, and
like you have, which is really you're walking that walk, and thank you for doing that. That's great.
Thank you. But also
civic engagement, yes.
If it's not to that full extreme, but also just giving young people the opportunity to send letters and petitions to their local MPs, and just represent their voice in other ways, because even if they can't vote, like their voice is still very, very important and still matters, and it should be listened to.
Very good. And it's probably obvious how science and citizen science and education coincide, but what else do you do? You're also, you like getting out in nature. And
oh yeah, I'm always somewhere in the sea, whether it be scuba diving or surfing. But I think when it comes to local issues in the city of Port Phillip, I mean, we invite anyone with good ideas or anyone who wants to have a conversation, please come to the EcoCentre, come and talk to us, because we are all about listening to what is happening in the community. And since we are an independent, not-for-profit organization, even though we are supported by the city of Port Phillip, we're still independent, we're quite nimble and we can move quickly on local issues. And we really want to have conversations with the community. We want to know what lives there, and we do quite a good job of that already. But the conversation can always include more people, and so we're always really happy to host Julia and her crew and all the young people at the EcoCentre. And I would really want to offer that as a hub to hatch all of these new ideas about how we're going to make this future safe for everyone, not just for people, but for the other than humans as well.
Fantastic. Well, can I... There's a lot of things I could say now. To wrap it up now, can I ask you all to give my amazing panel a round of applause? Thank you very much. Charlie, Julia, and Fem. To the whole Astor Theatre team, to Chris up to the projection booth, thank you very much. To Brett, to Lisa, to Juliet, thank you very much. And to you all for coming out on, what is this, a Wednesday? Tuesday? Tuesday evening? Give yourselves a round of applause too. You're beautiful.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Here's to setting a nice low bar for Transitions Film Festival on the South Side. May the next one, go even higher and do more. May you all come back and bring non-climate friends, too. And let's fill the Astor next time. Why not? Thank you all very much. Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to Climactic, the flagship podcast of the Climactic Collective, a podcast network dedicated to lifting the voices of the climate community. You can find out more about the people behind Climactic and all the shows we produce at climactic.fm. We are a social enterprise podcast network, and we greatly appreciate your support. You can find a link to our Pozible where you can support us directly in the show notes of this episode or from our website. Thank you for listening, and from the whole Climactic Collective, keep up the great work and take care of each other in these climactic times.
The Climactic Collective.